Weather!
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watchman News. My name is Lori Swan. I hope you guys are all doing well. If you are in the live chat, we do ask to keep it family friendly. There will be moderators in there to make sure that we stay within the terms of service put forth to us by the platforms we're utilizing tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a minute, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you know when we go live. So we are live right now on YouTube, and we just went live over on TikTok. Welcome everybody on TikTok. I'm not going to be watching the chat over there, but if you want to come over and join us, we have TikTok's very own Big John in the house again. It's Wednesday night. Come on over. We are over on YouTube at Global Watchman News. So come on over. We got a live chat room. You guys can chat it up over there. You can ask us questions and interact with the community over there. If not, you can just stay there and watch the broadcast. Like I said, I'm not going to be watching the chat, but come on over. So I'm just going to say welcome to the panel because this is our Wednesday night panel. We've got Ernie, Trish, and of course, Big John. Hey, guys.
Hey.
I'm human, I swear.
Hello again.
That's right. It is Wednesday night, and you guys know what that means. We have finished up our last series, which was the Tartarian Empire series, and we are going to kick off a new series this week, talking about the first Iraqi war, what happened, what transpired, why we really went over there, which is to we believe, which we can back it up with proof, is that they went over and into Baghdad to procure arcane I'm going to say artifacts needed to move us forward into the New World Order. Does that sound right, John?
Yes, definitely. Any kind of a push of technology that will fast track things for them.
Right. Exactly. And what's odd about it is, if you remember, now this took place back in 2003. So, I mean, it was a number of years ago. But what's interesting is when the U.S. military broke the city wall, when they broke through into Baghdad, you would think that the first place that they would go would be that they would secure military points, right, John? Isn't that usually how it happens? They go and they take over government buildings.
Yeah, definitely. Airport, which they did do that, and then of course, yeah, any kind of strategic holdings that they would know intelligence-wise, intelligence groups, signal, any kind of special ops. Maybe the Fedayeen was a special operations unit for the Iraqis,
right?
And so definitely any kind of buildings like that.
But that's not what they did this time, is it?
No, not at all.
So when they broke the wall, when they broke the city wall and came into Baghdad, instead of going and securing these government buildings, they went directly to the the Iraqi Museum?
Yeah, the Babylonian Natural History Museum.
The Babylonian Natural History Museum. Okay.
Yeah. So that was, I don't want to give a specific date, but it was in the very early months of 2003. Now, the initial invasion started like in April, and that's when you call that's Highway Tampa from Kuwait to Baghdad. And of course, like the real, like the first like Iraqi war, and I know this is called the first one, but the actual Gulf War, it wasn't a push into Iraq. It was just to push them out of Kuwait. And they might have had a few things here and there, that we never heard of. But it's like in between that particular operation and then Iraqi freedom is when they knew, because the British broadcasting was talking about the tomb of Gilgamesh and this and that. So I'm pretty sure that some intelligence agencies in the United States had already known about what was being uncovered, because it was known for a fact that Saddam Hussein actually dug up everything in 1987 and put it in these series of bunkers. And then of course the museum is part of the world class like organizations of museums. So it wasn't like any kind of a military target. It had these civilians that were highly educated working there. It's like a museum. You go to New York City or the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know the Smithsonian is definitely corrupt, but the people at the museum, especially the curator, which I'll throw in there, that I think that either that person was Maria Orsic or one of her relatives. But anyhow, that's a Caucasian woman in that museum, which was weird. But anyhow, when they went in, it was just like, it might have been under the guise, like I said before, of taking artifacts, for, well, they would say, oh, this is for, we don't want them, this is relics of the past, blah, blah, blah. But it really was because of who was there, that there was to be no kind of, knowing of the Lord. And then you had who I mentioned before as a indigenous man, which his name was Robert Three Eagles, and he was known by different people that he could he had a lot of knowledge, but he could sing Hebrew letters, which are called golems, and he could move doors that had no knobs. So he was part of the operation for a reason.
Wow.
He was the high priority. and along with these other strange figures who you think would not be in something like that were there. And but yeah, so that happened before the actual what they showed you on Fox News as the 3rd Armored Division getting there,
Right.
and then the group from Fort Hood. So it was a lot of. Plus, I wanted to add in there's a lot of bank break-ins. Even though they told you that the dinar wasn't worth anything, they sure did scoop them up before the actual regular army got there.
Wasn't there a movie? Wasn't it called Three Kings or something where they went in and got the gold, and that was kind of based on what they also did?
Yeah, that was from the first Gulf War, and I mean, I don't know. I've never looked into that to see if that was like based on conspiracy accounts or whatever. But definitely, is it far fetched? No, not at all. Because you're right. I know for a fact that they crashed trucks into the banks, literally military vehicles, and took all this money before I think the shock and awe program even was initiated. What we saw on TV when he said we started operations against Iraq, and then we saw the large building get hit and all that good stuff on TV. But most of that was done way before that even happened, including the museum operation.
Wow. Okay. So this was something that they definitely had planned.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They had the highest levels of people. You could almost say it was just, besides the contractors per se, not knowing anything, but the people they brought in, it was, you could say it was the U.S. version of the Anunnaki that the Nazis had to go and collect ancient relics.
Wow. Okay. Well, jeez. Up on the screen. This just gets bizarre when you think about, the things that, before we go any further, let's kind of tell people or explain to people where Iraq fits in the ancient land. Iraq was part of Babylon back in the biblical Babylon, right?
Yes, definitely. Babylon is about 25 miles south of modern day Baghdad. That's where the ziggurat was at, which is Tower of Babel. Okay,
so right, so them knowing archaeologically where it was, or I should say geographically where it was, and having and we're going to get into this a little later, having Saddam Hussein basically say that he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yep.
This actually put him. He actually set himself up to face what happened to him.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said before, he was a CIA plant. Actually served in the U.S. Army in 1958. So they, he's digging, and like I said, once you're planted, it's kind of like, well, we'll call you when we need you. So I mean, he's probably doing all kind of obvious, dirty things, whether it's killing people who oppose him or whatever. So he had like 2 lives basically. Yeah. And so he's digging this stuff up, and whether somebody is actually tapping on the shoulder of the U.S. president saying, "Hey, look, he's over there, he's digging up, our Antichrist, or he's digging up Nimrod," unless that was said, they're not, because he literally spent $90 million, excavating this with world-renowned people. This isn't like he had a bunch of prisoners doing it. He had, actual archaeologists from around the world coming in there, and whether he threatened them or not, everything that was being found was being taken back to the museum because there are lower levels there. And obviously that place is where, even before that, we know there was no telling what that place was before, Samaria, before like a pre-Adamite deal. Because obviously we know that it was something going on there before humans were on the earth. Yeah, he was just getting everything out. And Nebuchadnezzar also was a person who dug up things, so that's why he called himself that, because he's finding all these pre-flood relics, or even pre-Adamite relics.
Right. It says here that to date, more than 10,000 sites and monuments have been designated as part of the archaeological heritage of Iraq, and many more sites exist that have not even been excavated. So archaeologists have discovered stunning Assyrian rock carvings in the Iraqi city of Mosul that date back to 2,700 years. The reliefs, which are in remarkably good condition, feature intricately carved grapevines, warriors, bows, arrows, and palm trees. And that's just some of the things that were found there. One of the, I would say, lesser known, more important things that were found would be, well, if you've watched the movie and the series Stargate. And I'm going to hopefully find a picture, because they dug up a Stargate.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely got that.
Let me pull it up here. This was on a video, the CERN video that I did a number of years ago, and it was just one of the pictures of it. It says, one attempt to open a portal took place where this ancient Stargate-type device was discovered in the ancient site of Babylon, modern-day Iraq. And that's when the top physicist at CERN admitted that something may come through the portal at LHC. So this was discovered and quickly hidden. Now if you pull up this picture, of course, they're going to say, well, that's a lie. That didn't happen. But I mean, that's just one of the Stargates they've uncovered.
Yeah, they're definitely, they're all different shapes and sizes. There's actually, pretty sure it's Sacsayhuaman in Peru. They have one where you can, it's actually like a door within a door, and they like it because of the engineering of the stone. But the Incan said that's the Stargate, and there's like a literal little alien statue above it, and that's you can go there and tour that, and just people probably like, oh yeah, look, they don't know what they were on ayahuasca when they carved that, but it's like you can't carve that with no rock, you know what I mean, no chisel. You have to have precision,
lasers,
masonry tools to like where the stone don't crack and all that, and it's like perfect.
Wow. Well, so you have been talking for a number of weeks about, and you keep mentioning it just about every show, talking about the egg.
Yeah.
Why don't we kind of recap that? Because this was, you said you were surprised that I found this. This is a Fox News article dated December 3rd, 2015. Now, the article itself talks about basically weapons of mass destruction that they really did find. But it's the title of it that is interesting, isn't it?
Definitely. The dragon's egg. I mean, the egg for sure, because now there's talk of eggs all of a sudden, and that's exactly what Ishtar, who was found there, that's exactly what she was all about, was the whole egg thing. And we talked about the incubators and is there a correlation? And now you have, a dragon's egg. Obviously I wasn't part of this. This is, years later in the war. But if I had to guess about Marines or soldiers talking, whichever branch it is, I would say if they, they called it dragon's egg because they probably saw some kind of egg-like structure in there. And then this guy's like, well, I'm not going in there and messing with, we don't know what that is. So, and then now it's like, are they referring it to it as, because it's artillery shell with liquid in it? Is it, kind of like a dragon's egg slang because it's a chemical weapon, or do they really see some kind of egg structure in there?
Well, I mean, they've got to tell us. They got to tell us what they, in advance or whatever that their plan or whatever. So the fact that they did find Ishtar, they did find her literally in an egg.
Yeah.
They can't exactly write an article and say, hey, guess what? We found Ishtar in an egg.
Yes, exactly. And
I mean, they could, but
I remember when I first mentioned that. I don't remember what it was. One of my earlier videos, and it's just nobody ain't never said that. And I thought, I said, well, I'm gonna get in trouble. But it just, I guess it just kind of, it was suppressed. That video is gone now for integrity and authenticity, and that it's kind of funny. It's like So wait, you took my video away because, it's not, what's not true or authentic about it is it's just a story per se, right? You know what I mean? Like I can tell you, but I can't give you a photograph, from 2003. And it's like, it's telling me why it's got removed because of that. Like, why would they choose that particular title that they had to use?
Exactly. Of all the titles that they could have
Yeah,
used, they
use that. I've never seen that before, and there's no appeal to that. Integrity and authenticity. There, you can't appeal that. It's gone.
Wow.
And it's funny. All my ones where I mentioned anything about Ishtar, all got reported for that.
And it's odd that okay, it's like with my videos over on TikTok. I mean, if somebody has to actually physically be watching my videos to report them, it's not like, I don't think they have an AI that automatically goes through like they have on YouTube and flags videos. Somebody would actually have to be watching your videos and flag your videos.
Exactly, because everybody knows that I'm a rambler. So you'd have to have a whole program built just for Big John and try to find his rambling algorithm to find where I mention Ishtar or even an egg, because I go 500 different topics in 3 minutes. So yeah, you have to go to exact, and that's funny. It's only the ones where I talk about that.
That's interesting for new people.
So you're saying that the egg was found in that area, correct?
Yeah, she came out of that museum in the egg.
Did you see the egg? Because I'm curious, like, how big was it? What kind of
may
coating?
or may not. It was.
Sorry.
It was.
Cannot confirm nor deny.
No, yeah, it may or may not have seen it. It was large. I heard it was large, and it had copper and quartz locking mechanisms on it around the equator.
Lori,
yes.
That post I think I did on Facebook, or was it on Facebook or in our chat? And I said, this is like something I posted from 2018. It was the 3 eggs, one at the UN, one at the Vatican, one at, and it was cracked. And I wonder if that's what he's describing. It copper maybe, or black, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, let me try to find them.
I'm wondering if that's what it supposedly may or may not have looked like.
Well,
just a second.
I had put out one of the videos that was deleted. I did mention it probably. Well, this is it. It was talked about that they wanted to open it once it got to level 1, tier 1, but it didn't have enough light. And they said flashlights wouldn't work.
That's
I wouldn't be opening that. I'd be like, you open that somewhere else.
Yeah, I'd have been like, nope, I'm good. Y'all can have that.
Here's one that's at the Vatican.
Uh-huh. What do you think, John? Is that kind of
let me see. Not well, if see the ends, I don't know if you saw that it had like an equator. It had like a, like a, almost like an Easter egg toy. You know what I mean? Like you put Easter basket where it separates right there. I don't remember seeing anything on the ends that it was separate, but it was more oval. It was more eggy.
Oh, more eggy.
So,
okay.
It was more like a real egg kind of shape. It wasn't really a sphere. It was oval shape, like an egg, you would say, but it had a very distinct equator on it with those copper quartz. It looked like large, like diamonds, and the quartz was on the outside, and you could see the copper core, which was also a diamond shape. And look, to me, it was a locking, like it's what held the two sides together, basically.
What's interesting is the fact that it was quartz and copper, which are both copper is a conductor, and quartz is a specific frequency.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like
So it was like double locked. It had an electronical per se locking mechanism, and then had a frequency locking mechanism.
Exactly, because I remember there was mentioned there like, oh, the lights, and because the lights was mentioned, and they're like, no, it's not powerful. Flashlights won't work.
Wow. Do you know if they ever opened it?
No, I don't know.
You don't know. Well, let's just say with the things that are happening in the world, we can probably safely say that they did.
Oh, yeah, at some point, yeah,
Yeah.
I truly believe that she's back on the scene, either somewhere in an underground military base or walking around seeing what she's done, because this is just historical fact that Ishtar celebrations consisted of total transgender parties. Like literally, that's all that she was about, was that particular genre.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I think it's being pushed or shown, and like I said, I'm a person of high respect for my fellow humans, and I think that you can kind of do what you want. It is what it is. I don't get involved with it, but I do know that it's that's the main worship for Ishtar was that. And I just kind of found it interesting that it's such a big thing now on the scene of everyone's eyes,
right?
All of a sudden, and then plus two, it's just not that. It's a correlation of like the whole moon rocket being named after her, then the rabbit in the moon is her, and everything's about fertility and eggs. And now people are talking about, that she's the Jesus's mother, like God's wife or whatever. They're talking about now the point in the sphere and all that.
The Queen of Heaven, yeah.
Yeah, and
didn't what's her name? The singer. She was dressed up in the gold. She was pregnant, and she was dressed up like Ishtar. J-Lo. Was it J-Lo?
Was it Beyonce?
Beyonce, yes, it was Beyonce. She was dressed in the gold. She had the gold long gold and headpiece on, and she was pregnant, very pregnant, and that was everybody was saying she was representing Ishtar.
Yeah. Katy Perry was
Lady
like
Gaga,
that too during the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
riding the beast.
Riding the beast.
And then Lady Gaga was in the egg, and it's just that's their queen. That's their queen. That's who they, because Ishtar also accomplished something. See, if you want to say Nimrod is Osiris, which it is, he accomplished to be a Gibberum, even though he was born a human. He DNA manipulated himself to be a giant. Well, that's as equal to Ishtar taking 13 pieces minus a private part and putting it together, and then having intercourse with it, and then producing a child. So that's a feat. Nobody can do that. Maybe they can somewhere in a satanic ritual, maybe nowadays, but I don't think they can, because that's why they hold Osiris and Ishtar to such a high standard amongst their elite minds, because they did. Even the fallen angels couldn't do what they did.
Right. Now, when we say Ishtar and would you say Ishtar and
Osiris?
Osiris. So Ishtar and Osiris are actually, if we want to go even back further, that's Nimrod and Semiramis.
Yeah, Semiramis. Yeah.
Semiramis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Semiramis.
There's different culture, different names for them, different culture.
Okay. Right. Wow.
So they would be the descendants of Noah and possibly someone else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Nimrod. Yeah, he was the grandson of Ham. Yeah, so Cush was his dad, and that was Ham. Yeah, so I mean, and Ham's wife had the Rh negative factor. I believe the only female to have that, and I think that's what he used to enhance the bioengineering at the tower to make the super soldiers that he had, which is obviously just a bunch of, that's what the Nazis copied, the Übermenschen.
I'm going to read you guys this article. This is a Museum of Lost Objects, looted Sumerian seal. This says in April 2003, almost the entire collection of the ancient cylinder seals was stolen from the Iraq Museum in Baghdad and remains missing. In the chaotic, violent April of 2003, as U.S. tanks rolled into Baghdad, the Iraq Museum was broken into and pillaged. Looters, now they weren't looters, they were U.S. soldiers, rampaged through the halls, storerooms, and cellars, stealing more than 15,000 precious objects. Guys, when we're reading this, remember those are U.S. soldiers, and they did not steal. Well, they procured them; they stole them.
I think they definitely see. Remember, they didn't take. They took the good stuff. They didn't really worry about like when I mentioned about tablets that were seen, that you didn't need a translator for them. And I see people. I got one of my TikTok friends. I don't talk to the guy, but he's kind of sharp on Sumerian things, and he's going with Zechariah Ascension, the translation of the cuneiform tablets. But if he'd have known that, yeah, that's cool, man. Zechariah dug that up. But
his translation doesn't stand up to peer review, so I kind of stay away from Zechariah.
Yeah. And when the small note, Zechariah admitted that Enki is Lucifer. He admitted that on his deathbed.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but the actual tablets, and this is the surprising part. When you have a very high priority operation like that, and nobody knows about, you think that's just some old mummies off of National Geographic, but you wonder why do they go after the mummies, but they leave these tablets that are supposedly thousands of years old that anybody can walk up to and translate it, because you're like, well, that's the solar system, that's a skyscraper, this is a helicopter, so
right.
So I think this article here is definitely true, but I think it's definitely like a cover story for the actual operation, and they're like, well, our relics were stolen. Well, it's the stuff that they didn't really care about.
Exactly. It covers
exactly where they took the good stuff.
Right, exactly. Well, I thought this was interesting because it says it was terrible. You didn't want to believe it. It says Iraqi archaeologist Lamia al-Gilani, who worked for many years at the museum before moving to London, especially hearing about objects that and then people start saying they've gone. I was in shock. It says back in the 1960s, al-Gilani, one of Iraq's first female archaeologists, spent 8 years helping to document the museum's collection of 7,000 cylinder seals. These seals were an ancient tool for signing documents or sealing important goods, such as carved all over the pictures that told stories. One of her favorites was found in Hamrin, north of Baghdad. At 4,600 years old, it's the oldest object in our Museum of Lost Objects. And at 3.9 centimeters or 1.5 inches high, also the smallest. When rolled in wet clay, it vividly depicts an ancient harvest festival presided over by a powerful goddess as pictured above. Look at the picture. That doesn't look demonic at all, does it?
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like a picture from the scene off of Thor: Love and Thunder when he's fighting Gore on the moon.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're all connected.
Oh, look at, you said something about just having a head. There's just a head there of one of the statues.
So was Enki another name for Nimrod?
No, Enki was the Anunnaki.
He was the leader of the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Zechariah Ascension told one of his best friends that he told him that, the Enki was Lucifer.
And the Anunnaki were aliens or demons or?
Well, no, they were fallen angels. That's them. That's just Lucifer and his buddy.
The story that Zechariah Stitchin puts out is that the Anunnaki come around every 36,000 years or so, orbit Earth. They come back to harvest the planet through their planet Nibiru. And they come down and they harvest the planet. They, gather the gold. They do whatever. Okay, so Zechariah Stitchin, that's how the whole Nibiru story started. but or was revealed, I should say, not started. But in reality, Enki is Lucifer, and the Anunnaki are the fallen angels. Are the fallen angels. So again, it goes along with, that we know that these quote unquote extraterrestrials are interdimensional creatures. They're not extraterrestrial, and that they're most likely the fallen and their demons and their offspring. So, but that's how that whole thing came about. And if you read the Sumerian text, it tells you that the Anunnaki survived the flood by going into the earth.
Oh.
So that's how they survived it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were probably digging right before the flood happened.
Digging? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
They probably just hopped in a ship and went down in the ocean.
Well, that's funny because nothing in the water has been judged yet. So
don't get Ernie and I started on the water. That's a whole different topic that we're looking into.
We've been looking into it for like a year now. Megalodon and Behemoth,
and it just keeps getting creepier. I keep sending you stuff, and you're like, "That's it. I'm done. I'm tapping out. I'm done."
Yeah, the water.
I send you stuff. I'm like, I hope you're sitting down, and you're like, "Okay, it's time to go home."
Well, there's
I said, I was like, "I hope you're sitting down."
The only thing I'll say about the water is that there's so many underwater pyramids, especially on the Gulf of Mexico. It's there's a lot of them over there.
And then Hurricane Ann did that show, and they've been seen alien ships have been seen going in and out of the water, and specifically the Malibu area, but it's probably worldwide.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a story from because in Louisiana offshore they have a lot of obviously platforms, oil and gas platforms, and there was a supply boat. I remember this story from about 4 years ago. There was a supply boat going out, and the whole entire ship called into the radio station and talked about it on the local radio station there in Lafayette, and they were saying how this craft came out silent. It came out and they could feel the water dripping off of it as it hovered above them. It came out of the ocean and then shot straight up and so fast, but they said it made no sound, and the only thing they could see was the water off of it dripping onto their ship and in the ocean, like it's a wet towel or something. And that's something for an entire crew to see.
The same thing. Was that the same one that happened? You said it was off of Texas?
Louisiana. It was off the coast.
Louisiana. Because there was another one that was off the coast. I think there's, where the, and I don't remember the name of it. There's an Air Force base in Florida on the Panhandle and
Eglin?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Is it off Fort Walton, Pensacola, Gulf Breeze area?
Pensacola area. Yes. Mm-hmm. And just south of that, in that area, that's where it's a lot of activity of them diving. Like they have an underwater base there.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. You remember when they tested the Mohab?
Yeah.
They tested it off the coast of Pensacola, like on the. It's like it's funny that you say that. Like they got activity off that Air Force base. Well, that's where they dropped that, and they tested the Mohab, and they put it out in the water. So they probably were trying to get something with it.
Well, I'll tell you, they're doing a lot of bombing in the water right now. There was one just recently too.
Two of them off the Atlantic coast of Florida, and then both of those happened within a week or so of each other, and that's when the water started on fire in the Gulf, right around that same time, and then we had another explosion in the Caspian Sea, which has a lot of activity down there as well. Yeah, I think they're trying to stir whatever. I mean, we've got our planet's 90 something percent covered with water, and we've literally don't know anything about it. We know more about the moon, I guess you would say, than we know about our oceans.
Well, there was that ship that was split in half this past year, and then And then years ago, off the Gulf Coast, where we were just talking about, there was the oil spill
Mm-hmm.
with the black gooey stuff.
Yep. All in that area, all, you know, and I've been watching. Oh, I think it was the video that I sent you, Ernie, was the mysterious disappearance of millions of crab off the coast of Alaska. I'm sorry, but millions of crab don't just up and disappear. Something's eating them.
Yeah, because they're delicious. Shouldn't be eaten, but
No, but I'm saying, you know, you just don't. We don't have. This is the second crab season they've had to cancel because, you know, they've lost millions of crab and they're not dead.
It said billions.
Was it billions? Yeah, I know it was a lot of crab gone.
That's a lot, though. Like, I mean, millions is a lot, but billions, my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. Where are they gone to? I mean, you know, we've watched, you know, them do the fishing off the, you know, the Aleutian Sea there for years on the Discovery Channel, watching them, and all of a sudden now 2 years they're canceling it because they've just up and disappeared. Something big down there's got a pretty big appetite.
We know what it is too.
Nervous laugh.
Yeah. Now, earlier John mentioned Maria Orsic. He didn't she? I mean, wasn't that like way before the Baghdad Museum?
Yeah.
They said she might be the curator.
Well, it was a person who years later, like I said, I knew nothing of that.
Funny
So
you should mention her. Here she is.
When I first saw a picture of her, I was like, well, that lady looks familiar. And that's why I was like, is it her? I mean, and that was another video of mine that got like, I had to appeal. It was Maria Orsic. And, you know, obviously I knew that they had the cloning technology. And I had told Lori before, they had these U-boats Hitler had that were like the size of aircraft carriers. And Ukrainian soldiers after World War II, or towards the end of it per se, they talked about that they had about 20 or 30,000 blonde hair, blue-eyed women that all kind of looked like getting on one of these U-boats going to Antarctica. And they loaded them out of Ukraine. But they all looked like, because Maria Orsic, the way she looked, she was born like in 1895 and did not look anything like somebody around that period of time. Like, she looked like, you know, the only female at that time that looked like that.
Like a time traveler?
Well, no, I mean, you look at her, you know what I mean? It's like, she's, the one on the right is, I understand, like the actual depiction. But she became the leader of the Vril Society in 1919. And this is what I talk about. She has her hair a certain length because, you know, of course, women's hair is an antenna. So that's how she got she cut her hair a certain length because a woman, like I said, woman's hair is an antenna. So certain length gives you certain frequencies. And she got the technology from a planet which is like 68 light years away called Sumi-Ur. And that's where the Hyperboreans are from, according to the Anunnaki. Now, Diedrich Eckhart talked a lot about this. So she got the flying saucer technology. She's the one who built the flying saucer that we got.
She's the one that built is it the Nazi Bell?
Well, no, it's the, remember the one I sent you, the Heinernaben or whatever it's called? They made a little, you can buy the model of it like at Hobby Lobby or something.
Oh, at Hobby Lobby, yeah.
Yeah, that one. So she designed that. That's the first design one. That's the one that defeated Admiral Byrd down in Operation High Jump. But she got that technology from Sumi-Ur, which were the Hyperboreans, and the Dietrich Eckhart also called them the Anunnaki. So that's who's in Antarctica. I'm sorry. When the Germans found a new Schwabenland in Antarctica, they talked to the Hyperboreans, which are tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. So that's where the whole Aryan thing comes from.
And just to let you guys know, that's going to be the topic of next week. We're going to get into the Antarctica treaty, the Antarctica whole thing with Byrd and how it plays into what's going on right now. So that's going to be part 2. So we're not going to go too far into her, but yeah, the Vril, all that, that plays into if they were pulling these things out of Iraq, if they were pulling these things out of what Saddam Hussein had dug up, thinking, he's Nebuchadnezzar, then it would make sense that they would send somebody like her to authenticate, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, either it was, there's no, we talk about so much stuff that, like I said, I always say it's not far fetched. If you've seen things that you can't explain or hear things or like I say, experience it or whatever, it's like, could it be far fetched that they did have a clone of this woman, or it is her? You know what I mean? It's not, it just, either it was her or it's somebody from her DNA.
I was going to say, because I mean, the Vril have a certain look. I mean, that is the reason why Hitler was looking for, the Aryan, the Vril. They all have a certain look.
Yeah, and that's exactly why she became that, because with her hair, she got the knowledge. Basically, she got it downloaded to her through her hair.
Wow.
From them, from the Hyperboreans, which were blonde and blue eye, and she built their technology. And of course, if she did get on that U-boat to Antarctica, well, what a finer time, for Admiral Byrd to be defeated by the saucers. And then
you can say whatever you want about flat Earth guys, or you can say whatever you want about Antarctica, whatever. The truth of the matter is that Byrd went down there on a scientific expedition and returned with a military armada. Whatever he saw scared the crap out of him, and he brought back the military.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like 13 ships. It was a USS Philippine Sea. That was aircraft carrier that he brought down there. And those things were all defeated. His flotilla was defeated. Planes, ships, everything was sunk.
Yep. By
those saucers, which he said could fly pole to pole in minutes. And people say that, you can't, if you have a saucer that fast, obviously you're not going to put like conventional weapons on it. But they already had, this plasma technology or line of sight radar, which I think we're going to get into next with the Iraqi thing. But, they, if light can travel and information can travel in a fiber optic, has anybody ever seen like how old fiber optic technology actually is? It's just line of sight, laser, guided munitions and stuff like that. I think even the Nazis had some kind of like laser acquisition for some of the V2 rockets that you probably won't find a whole lot of it, but I know if I dug, I can find how the guidance systems of these V2 rockets, of course, they never get off the ground per se in combat. I think only 2 were fired, but the targeting systems, any kind of info by laser has always been around because it more or less it's sound and light,
Wow. Yeah. I've got a couple more I'm going to pull up here, and then we've got archaeologists and there's 2,700-year-old stone carving out of northern Iraq. And again, I don't know if you guys can see the picture, but that's Anki, right?
Yeah, something like, yeah.
Or is that because I sent you a video and I asked you if you could authenticate it. I said, did they really bring this up? And it was that, I think that was the same image. And you said that it came out of Peru.
Oh, yes. That. Yeah. Now, I know you're talking about now. Yeah.
Is that Leviathan?
Say again.
Huh?
Is that Leviathan?
No.
Looks like a sea monster.
No, if you turn it on its side, hold on a second.
Hold
on a second. I'm going to pull something up off of Facebook. I just sent it to myself. Give me just a second. This is what I sent
it to me.
No, did I send it to you?
Yeah.
I sent it to somebody. Whoever I sent it to, let me know who I sent it to.
You talking about the one in stasis?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me pull it up. My computer's really slow today. I don't know why. I guess I should have gone upstairs closer to the office. Come on. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so take a look at the face. And the face, let me go back here so I can put my cursor on it. The face is right here. You see this? This is a beard. Okay. And I'm going to pull up. This is a picture I sent to John the other day. Look at that.
Oh yes, I've seen that before. Notice how it just looks like a normal person sleeping. There's like nothing deformed or decayed at all.
That's because he's not dead. It's not a mummy.
Yeah.
He's in stasis. He's sleeping. And so most of these things that they've discovered, these giants or this Nephilim that they've found throughout the world, we keep. I guess we think, oh, they found the remains of these giants, but in fact, they're all in stasis. They're all sleeping.
I wonder if they're sleeping in the rock formations as well.
There's a whole different topic. Oh my God, right?
It is, because the giants is definitely a whole different topic. With the now, I'll throw this in here maybe for another show or whatever. But there's a movie called, or whatever it is, called Troll on Netflix, where he comes out of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's a giant, obviously, because it's huge, but it's just like it looks like a troll, basically. I think it's called Troll, whatever series it is or whatever. But in 2016 or 2017, now, like I said before, I mentioned my ex-wife really wasn't into this stuff because it helped me out, obviously, because of my conversion, but the whole Nephilim knowledge and research really bummed her out, because it's kind of, it consumes you, but it all, like I said, it also forms a reality into your your life. And so she had a dream that when all these volcanoes start erupting, that's going to unleash the giants.
That sounds about right.
And she, like I said, that particular, I remember a whole lot of things, but that really stuck out to me for years and years, because that's just something like, that's a vision. That's just not, you know what I mean? She don't know. There was nothing on TV. I don't think we watched TV in those days, but it's like, that was like a particular vision that I never forgot about that she said. And the biggest volcano, I think, is it in like Krakatoa or Anak? That's the name of a giant of the Anakim. That was his name. That's the volcano named after the giant in the book of Joshua.
Oh, good grief. And we've got a couple of them erupting, more than a couple. What are there, 4 erupting right now?
The dream she had was when they all erupt at one time, that's when the giants will be unleashed.
Oh, okay, no. It's time to go home.
Yep. Tapping out. I know. Tapping
Dad,
out.
come get me.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you sit here and think about the technology that they have. I mean, I can only associate it with like a treasure hunt. They need to get a treasure hunt, and you had mentioned Ukraine earlier, and I keep saying they're in Ukraine for a reason. That is, I've thought it since the beginning. As soon as I heard that Russia went into the Ukraine, I immediately said to myself, they're looking for something.
I don't think it's necessarily looking for something. Is they know it's there and they're going to get it one way or the other.
Right.
Whether it's there's so many topics, I guess, I've come across. People believe it's like the QAnon thing, and it's like Russia is a good guy, and like it's an optic show or whatever. Or they're going after the Khazarians, but I know one thing: they really wanted to get underneath that steel mill. They spent so
they've
much
really
time.
wanted. Yeah, there's been a couple places that they've really wanted to get into.
And whether now, if it was underground biolab, yeah, logical, very logical. Because I mean, I'm sorry, but the United States really is up to some no good stuff here, for a long time.
Right.
And or did they have anything stored down there? Because like I said, you're right. They had a couple of sites, and they really, I remember it was talked about for one day is when the Russians brought in like 300 fire trucks and started flooding that damn place to get them out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing. Why, strategically, unless there's something down there that you really have to have, all you got to do is just kind of like, well, we'll just put a guard right here, and if they come up, we'll just pop them one by one. But it's like, why would you try to get them out or drown them or whatever? You wanted something down there.
I have a question for you. If you're going to hide something, let's talk about Chernobyl for a second, because that's another place that they really, really wanted to get into.
Yeah.
If you're going to hide something that you don't want people to find, what a better cover than a nuclear reactor that's gone awry.
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody's going to go down there because, it's not safe. The radioactivity, supposedly kills people, in a short period of time. So what a better way to hide something is than to put it into a spot where nobody's going to go look, like Chernobyl.
Yeah, that's a very good point too.
Yeah, really good point. Really good cover.
If I was going to hide something, that's where I would. I don't need guards. I don't need any security system. I just throw it in there and know that it'll be safe forever.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
That's just, I don't know, something that came to mind.
Or in Russia's case too, when they were doing that drilling, when they were trying to go down to the depths, be like the first country to go down as far as you can down into the Earth's crust.
They stopped because of the screams?
Yep. And they covered it up like with security detail, like iron top, all welded shut, gated off and everything. It's a good place too.
Yeah. And it's back to the cover story, Lori, is if a experiment like a chimera or something escaped, they could say it was a side effect from the radiation.
It was a wild boar that had radiation sickness, and that's why it was distorted the way it was. Of course. I think not only is Chernobyl a cover for that, but I also think Japan is as well, Fukushima, because we keep talking. They have in the press, they've talked about the Fukushima monster, or the Fukushima. Yeah, I think it's the monster. They keep talking about that, and I think they set that cover up years ago in case something happened. They could say, "Oh, it's just the radiation. It's nothing. Don't worry about it."
Does it happen to be in the sea?
Right? Did it have 3 heads coming out of the sea? don't worry about it. It's just radiation. Just saying.
They were kind of like, in that they really said that about the 3-headed thing?
No, I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic. No.
Because I was like, well, that's exactly
it's a good cover story, right?
Yeah, that's what Godzilla had to fight, the whatever that thing was called.
Right? Yep. So, hey, we don't, like I said, we don't know what's in the oceans. 97% of the Earth is covered by ocean, and we know nothing about it. Yeah. And I do believe that all these this global warming, I think that they're putting that out there as fear, because they know that if these glaciers do melt, what is going to be unleashed, they don't want to deal with.
Because they're going to be in the caves when all this happens anyway. So
yeah, they'll be in their domes and stuff. And I had a notion one time, and it's only because of like rock formations of how oil is, found and obviously, produced. But You know, they don't let you drill around certain areas, especially in the Southwest. And obviously, you know, the deeper the well, it's going to be the hotter the produced water that you get. And you don't have any surface equipment to handle that water. Like there's a well in Louisiana drilled in what they call the Rockefeller Refuge, and it's very, very deep, probably more than 30,000 foot. But you know, the water you produce, which is salt water, but it's hot. It's like 300 degrees. So there's no kind of equipment that you could safely have to produce this well. So, you know, they don't produce it. But I always thought, like, if you have these military bases in these, you know, certain cities, but you like towards only certain places, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, you can't drill around. You're not going to go to Dulce and start drilling. You know, they're not going to let you.
Right.
And there's more deposits in the Rocky Mountains of oil than anywhere in the entire world. But you're not going to let you go drill wells up there. Not because of environmental impact. It's because you're probably going to drill into some of these damn caverns and have a Phil Schneider moment.
Exactly, because we know that they are hiding a lot of stuff in the Grand Canyon. There's places you can't even go. I mean, there's been Egyptian temples and Egyptian statues found in the canyon. You know, that they're how are they going to explain that? They would have to change history again in order to explain.
And just like they found the Egyptian giants in there in stasis, you know, the male and the female. That's talk of every indigenous tribe on that, you know, in that part of the world.
Trish and I found on TikTok, and Deb the Rub, she's in her chat right now. There was Trish, Deb, and I. We were talking about they had found something. There was a woman on TikTok that came and said that they found something that they were digging for in Nevada, and they found it, or was it Utah? Do you guys remember which one it was? Was it Nevada or Utah? I think it was Utah. And they were going to be making an announcement very soon, but it was an amazing discovery and blah, blah, blah. She did like 3 videos and disappeared.
Yeah, they scrubbed her. That was on I think July the 27th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was
Utah.
Yeah.
Utah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Trish and Deb and I did some research on it, and they were actually really hiring for archaeologists in that area because she said that whatever they found, the military was taking over the dig, and that they would announce something within the next few days, and she completely disappeared.
It was said through certain channels that it was just another Stargate that they got.
It was another Stargate, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's go to the next topic because it's still we can go back to that, but I want to talk mainly this last hour about again going back to the Iraqi war. I don't know, like I said, I'm not sure the age of people that are watching, but I think a lot of us who are older can remember. I was glued to the TV. But I remember at the time during the Gulf War, literally thousands of Iraqi soldiers were seeking out U.S. military and surrendering. And when they surrendered, they were terrified. John, do you know anything about this?
Yeah, now, just when you mentioned that about surrendering, they were using, of course, that acoustic weapon, but they were telling. I remember stories here when I was in the military. Of course, some of my NCOs did serve in the Gulf War, and they were, you know, they had told the story. This is when I first heard about this, by the way. They had told the story about, they're using like acoustic stuff, and I'm like, you know, what is that? You know, because nobody's ever heard of that stuff. It's just something, you know. Obviously, it was like either secret or I think they used it in Panama, which was '89. But so they were talking about this acoustic weapon and how they could focus sound and stuff. But then our NCOs were telling us, oh no, they were surrendering because you know, there's something called a M88 Hercules, which is it's a tank per se, but it's a recovery track, and it has a 10-cylinder engine and it's very loud. So he was telling me, they goes, nah, they were surrendering to the M88s because there's just, when this thing drives by, it's very deafening. But yes, so I believe it was the acoustic weapon, not those recovery tracks.
Right, and believe it, during that time they were experimenting with not only the voice to God weapon, or it was a modified LRAD, but they were also doing something with the imaging, kind of like a Project Bluebeam kind of thing, where they were projecting an image that literally scared these guys. They were terrified when they came up to the U.S. soldiers. This is an article from 2007. It says, the voice of God weapon returns. The voice of God weapon, a device that projects voices into your head to make you think God is speaking to you, is a military equivalent to an urban myth, meaning it's mentioned periodically at defense workshops. Ironically, I first heard about the same defense conference where he first met this guy that he's friends with. It says, the voice of God weapon, a device that projects voices into your head to make you think God is speaking to you, is a military equivalent to the urban myth. Typically, someone whispers about it actually being used. And they talk about it. It says, at a government workshop some time ago, I heard someone describe a new tool that describes the voice of Allah. And that's exactly what they were using in the Gulf War. And it's a sonic projector and a long-range acoustic device, which is an LRAD, and is modified as a voice of God weapon. And it goes on, this article says, that brings us back to the voice of Allah weapon. Is it real or is it bogus? In one version, related to me by another defense reporter, it's not just Allah's voice, but an entire holographic image projected above. And that's exactly what they did to get these, these soldiers to surrender at that time. Here's another one, DARPA. Insider warns the voice of God weapon is real, can talk to you from nearly a mile away, blind you, or melt your skin off. People laughed years ago when former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura hosted Dr. Robert Duncan on his conspiracy theory TV show, and Dr. Duncan discussed what he called the voice of God weapon technology he helped to develop, allegedly used during the Iraqi war via supposedly beaming Allah's voice into the heads of Iraqi soldiers, telling them to drop their weapons. Dr. Duncan tells us they reportedly followed Allah's commands, not knowing they were coming from the United States military. While we've discussed the voice of skull technology, or the V2K, in numerous stories on this ANP, with at least one reader sure to tell us to put your tinfoil hats on, this news story over at the Daily Mail reports the U.S. Marines have revealed their plans for a plasma crowd control weapon that can shout at people from 3,000 feet away, then be turned up to temporarily blind them, or even turned up full blast to quite literally melt people's skin off them, causing nearly instant death. And I'm going to pull up the schematics for it, because there is actually patents for this.
Oh, definitely. The one of those weapons was used in Fallujah.
Oh, wow.
Now,
right,
with the microwave, I call it a microwave. Now, let me tell you how I got this microwave deal. Okay, so mortuary affairs, I know a little bit about it. I'll just say that. And mortuary affairs recovered the vehicles. If a vehicle was involved, we know obviously with the Humvee or with the IED or whatever. So there was talk of a Russian BMP, which is just a wheeled armored personnel carrier. It has no tracks on this guy. Some have tracks, some's got wheels. It depends what model it is. And they were just going through it. And the soldiers were inside of it still. Not American soldiers, Iraqi soldiers. And when they pulled open the doors of this thing, they went to place their weapons on these because they thought they were alive the way they looked. But when they realized that they weren't responsive to any kind of commands, and they kind of were, butting them with the barrel of the rifle, that they were intact, but they were indeed dead. But there was no blood. There was no kind of, visual wounds on these people. So when they went to, finally say, okay, these people are, something's wrong with them. When they grabbed them, it was said that, you know, you're grabbing somebody wearing their uniform, you know, whether they have their load bearing vest or whatever kind of, you know, they had, you know, older style flag jackets, and you pull them and it feels like their flesh came off the bone, like, you know, like inside their, you know, their clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like you grabbed like putty and it moved.
So were they cooked from the inside out?
Yes, they were. It was called a microwave weapon, and when me and Lori had talked, that's when I told her, I said, I'm going to tell this story, but this is only ever heard about that, but it came from Mortuary Affairs because they recovered a vehicle. Even though it wasn't an American vehicle, they only took it in because of the situation of the deceased people inside it. That they were killed without rounds. There was no rounds found. You know, I don't know. I didn't hear about the autopsies, but the thing is, like, what it was told, like, these people didn't die because there was no blood, nothing like that. They were just posed in a final moment in life. But when they were touched, the meat actually came off, you know, inside the uniform, like, you know, it started to ooze out, whatever. And
yet the vehicle was normal. Like,
vehicle was intact. There was no entry, any kind of you know, we had AT-4 rockets at the time, maybe a tow missile.
So basically, it was a weapon that kept everything, the buildings intact, the vehicles intact, the weapons intact, and just took out the people.
Yes, yeah, just microwave, like kill them somehow with any kind of a gamma or neutron, something.
Here's a patent for microwave voice to skull technology. And I just put the patent number, was in 1989, U.S. patent 4877027, but there's also another one. It's U.S. 20200200275874A1 is also the other one. I already put that in chat, but it says sound is induced in the head of the person by radiating the head with microwaves at a range of 100 megahertz to 10,000 megahertz that are modulated with a particular waveform. So they could have modified this to take it from just putting it in your head to actually microwaving you.
No doubt. And was Operation Just Cause? I think that was Panama in '89. But I remember them saying that was that Noriega when they captured him?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so they said they played like music or whatever on loudspeakers, but I think that was literally a cover because I think they actually used that, you know, voice of God technology in Panama rather than saying that, they blared Van Halen or whatever.
Right. It makes sense too. Absolutely. And for those of people that think that they won't use this on American people, I want to draw your attention to this. This was where did it go? Hold on a second, guys.
Did you find that active denial system picture?
No, I did not.
It's type it in, it'll be on the back of what they call a HEMTT truck.
Okay, what is it called?
ADS. Active denial system. ADS. Type in maybe ADS system, and it's going to show. Looks like a radar on the back of a HEMTT truck. A HEMTT's like an 8x8 vehicle. It has 8 tires on it.
Do they use those for crowd control?
Yes, it's a crowd control based weapon. I don't know if it's ever been deployed, but it's the one that makes your skin burn. It puts gamma on you where it feels like you get hot and you just get away.
Yeah, I've seen a demonstration, I think, on YouTube.
I've actually seen these as well. Hold on a second. I would pull it up. I found it. And then I've actually seen these. And yes, they were used it looks like they were used in Iraq. That's where I think I remember seeing them from.
Lori, this type of technology is also, the frequency thereof is also implemented in mobile communication networks. That is of the 5th generation kind.
Yeah, 5G. That's all. I mean, 5G ain't new. It's all that stuff. It's sending out.
I wasn't trying to say
it. Here's something I found. This is from 2020 Popular Science. U.S. military's heat weapon is real and painful. Here's what it does. And there's a picture of it right there.
Yeah.
Earlier this week, an NPR report uncovered an exchange from June 1st in which a military police officer wanted to know if the DC National Guard owned a pain-inducing heat weapon for potentially using on protesters. He also asked about a powerful auditory communication system that has been compared to the voice of God. The weapon, an active denial system, or ADS, is a real thing. It is the sound system, which is called a long-range acoustic device, LRAD. Guys, first time I ever heard an LRAD was when I was watching on Discovery when the Bob Barker was trying to save the whales. They were in the South. I think they were in the South Atlantic by Antarctica, and they were trying to stop the Japanese whalers. And they deployed the LRAD. And that's just a high-pitched, like deafening sound that actually hurts. But this is different. This is nothing like an LRAD.
You know, it makes you think about, like, did they get technology from giants that have harmonic capabilities? Because harmonic, you know, that can make your head hurt.
That would not be so far-fetched now, would it?
Not at all.
Well, I've ran across, this was back a while ago, 2007, December 13th, 2007. Billboard blasts passersby with audio advertisement. Walk by the billboard for a new A&E show, Paranormal State, on Prince Street in Manhattan, and you could find yourself targeted by a narrow beam of sound projected from the ad using technology from Holosonics, which specializes in creating audio hotspots that are audible only to the person whose cranium they hit.
Wow. You know, and I obviously talked about it before in one of our podcasts, but just like when the wrestler Rowdy Piper said that his aunt bought the dog food from the TV commercial, but she didn't own a dog.
Right. Right. There's some good advertising.
And it's like, is it that, you know, is it that, was it the frequency from the sound off the television that was that was implanting the idea for her to go buy the gravy train dog food?
And she doesn't even have a dog.
It doesn't own an animal. Yeah.
That's some serious NLP.
Let's take a listen to this. This is from the A&E billboard.
Oh my God.
It's not your imagination. Who's there? Who's there? It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there? It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there?
So that's a real thing. That was a real billboard, and they were pumping it into the skulls of the people walking by.
That's just plain sick.
I know.
That's going to deceive so many people. I mentioned it in side chat that this type of technology, I firmly believe, is going to be used by the Antichrist to portray himself as being omnipresent.
Well, there's supposed to be a sound that goes out. Russ Dizdar covered that in the Black Awakening with the sound that goes out to everybody, and that they all start going crazy.
That beam, which is created in a project that is blue, is going to be working in conjunction with that as well, I believe.
Almost
yeah,
like
I'm going to pull that up right now. There you go. Let me pull that up because let me just chop this one down first. And oh, really? There it is. And so we don't want to say what it says, but you guys can read what it says. This BBP. But here's what the steps for it. So the first step, and think about this, guys. Okay, think about as I'm reading the steps to this. Think about the things that are going on. On my phone, every single day, I get a notice or some sort of notification that they found something archaeological new. Every time, like, what did they find? Zeus's temple yesterday. I saw. I shared it with you guys in chat. Can one of you guys pull that up? Ernie, can you pull that up in our chat and put the link? Pull up on the screen.
I'll try.
Okay. So when I'm reading these things, think about these things. So the first step is a breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the staging earthquakes in certain precise locations around the planet where supposed new discoveries will finally explain for them that the meaning of the basic doctrines of all world's religions are wrong. This falsification will be used to make a population believe that all religious doctrine has been misunderstood or misinterpreted. The falsification started with the 2001 Space Odyssey, the TV series Star Trek, and films like E.T., all of which deals with space invasion and projection. Jurassic Park was a push for the theory of evolution. The second step deals with the gigantic space show. And I do believe that Starlink is definitely associated with this. 3D optical holograms and sounds, laser projections of multiple holographic images in different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to the predetermined original national religious faith. This new God image will talk in all languages. As an example, the Soviets have manufactured the advanced computers and have programmed them with minute psychological particles based upon their studies of the anatomy and biology of the human body, as well as their studies in anatomy, chemistry, and electricity of the human brain. These computers have also been fed with a different language of the world. And then the third is the third step deals with telepathic electronical two-way communication. ELF, or extra low frequency, VLF, very low frequency, and LF, low frequency waves, will reach the people of the earth through the insides of their brains, making each person believe that his own God is speaking to them from within his own soul. Such rays from satellite are fed from a memory of computers that store much data about the human being and his languages. These rays will then interface and interweave with the natural thinking processes to form what we call the artificial talk. And then the final step involves universal supernatural manifestation using electronic means. This step contains three different orientations. The first one is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur upon every major city of the world. This is to push each major nation to use its nuclear capability to strike back. In this manner, it would put each of these nations in a state of full disarmament before the United Nations after a false attack. The second is to make the Christian believe that the major rapture is occurring with a simple played divine intervention of the alleged good alien force coming to save the good people from the brutal satanic attack. Its goal is to get rid of all significant opposition to the New World Order. And the third orientation is a mixture of electronic and supernatural forces. A wave frequency used at that time will allow supernatural forces to travel through fiber optic cables, coaxial cables, electronic and television lines in order to penetrate all electronic equipment and appliances that will then all have a special microchip installed. The goal of this step deals with the materialization of satanic ghosts, specters, and poltergeists all across the globe in order to push all populations. Guys, when we tell you guys, and we talk about your electronic devices, when we say that, you know, the things are manifesting through your phone, through your computer, through, if you guys watch Netflix, Black Mirror, it's the same thing. These satanic forces can move through these electronical components.
Lori, the link is posted inside chat for you.
Inside chat, thank you. Let me pull it up. So when you sit here, I mean, literally, guys, I've been every day there's something new. Here we go. Scientists just found Zeus's god temple that has been sealed, undisturbed for thousands of years. I don't know about you, but put it back.
Right? We don't need it.
Don't touch it. Put it back.
Wasn't there
Why would scientists be finding the temple to begin with?
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I think it all has to do with the project that we just talked about. It all has to do with the archaeological step. They need to pull these things out. They need, I believe, they need to convince the world that these gods, these ancient little gods, these ancient deities, these demigods, that they're the good guys. Because when they come back to save us, you know, what do you think about that, John? I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm sorry, say that again about you said this Zeus temple here?
Yeah, I mean, are they trying to make it look like that, you know, these guys, these demigods, these, you know, little g gods, these whatever they are the good guys. So when, you know, the time comes and they put all these images and all these voices in our head, you know, we're going to be programmed to believe that they're saving us.
Oh, definitely. For sure. Because I was going to say, like, it reminded me of that. It was a book, obviously, called Childhood's End. And Arthur Clarke wrote that, and he was a big Luciferian.
That was a movie or a
yes,
TV
yeah,
show
they
too.
made it into it was a book, of course, and then Sci-Fi did like a little mini series on it.
Mm-hmm.
But they showed up and they made peace. You know, there's no war, this and that, and they finally revealed themselves, and they look like, you know, a biblical demon with the horns and the wings and this and that, and they have the children guide them down when they reveal themselves to the world, and so the world's not afraid or whatever. But it ended up being to where they enhanced the children with all these psychic capabilities, basically, you know, Genesis 3:22 stuff. And then they took the children at the end, and then that's once the children are gone, then once all the adults, there is no more children to be born on the earth in the book. And then once all the adults die, then the earth is nothing. But yeah. So that's just one of the things they do. They portray it as like, you know, they're our friends, and you know, they're going to program everybody. And my personal opinion is they're actually going to use Jesus, and I think they're going to go ahead and act like that they created him, or he is of their race, him being a star child, basically.
The ascended masters of the Galactic Federation.
Exactly, saying that he's, you know, he came from space and he's buddies with us, basically. I think they're literally going to use that fact, because even when it's described about the Antichrist, that he comes from the air, which is space. So the Antichrist himself is described in Daniel as an alien savior.
Wow. I'm going to pull up the images from the Galactic Federation. They're ascended masters, because, well, this is it. This is one right here. And if I'm let me pull it up. Let's do it this way so I can show you a few of them. Here's the ascended master. This is Sandanda, who completely looks like our hippie Jesus, our Caucasian Jesus that we know he doesn't look like. That's just one of the ascended masters. So if he comes down, of course, people are going to believe that's Jesus. I used to have a picture with all of them on there. I don't know where they are. I don't know if you can see it on this one. But on this one, they got Buddha, the Virgin Mary. They've got here Shiva, Isis. There's quite a few of them that here we go. Here's one. They're ascended masters. So they could put any one of these up there, and it would completely tie in with the religious aspect of it and get people to believe these are our friends.
No doubt. That's the thing. They're just gonna. It has to be a deception, obviously, but it has to be where the very elect will be deceived if it were possible.
Correct. All right.
And before the revealing of the Antichrist, you have the apostasy, which is the falling away. Now, I can't think of any event that can pull people away from their belief in Jesus Christ than something like this kind of operation, where they're going to either beam the sound or hologram or have aliens show up and put on a tap dancing show and tell you that Jesus is one of them. or that's what's going to pull people. You have to have something like that because there's nothing else. I mean, you can have a total nuclear annihilation, but people are dead. Then it's not gonna matter. Who they gonna come and try to trick? Nobody. But to have something like a sci-fi genre deception, I can believe that 1,000,000% that can turn people's eyes. Not everybody, obviously, because it says that, but the majority will fall away, and then all of a sudden, and then Daniel's saying that the Antichrist is an alien savior. I mean, if somebody shows up doing, these lying signs and wonders, people are going to kind of buy into it. Is just my opinion.
Well, not only that, but if you think that, when you think about the technology that they're going to implement, this voice to God technology, it's not me coming up to you saying, Jesus is here, come see him. It's going to be in your skull. I'm not going to
appear divine.
Right. And what are people going to think? I mean, the words even said that people are going to think that it's coming from their soul.
Right.
This comes to mind to me. And I don't know if I'm not saying it's right, but when you said that, when Jesus said many will come in his name or say that they're him or whatever, and he's like, if they say come over here and see, don't go.
Right.
Because if he's like, remember this, to find the corpse, follow the vultures. And I don't think anybody really, I think that plays into that you're going to have to go seek him rather than get a telepathic message in your head. You know what I mean? You're going to have to go seek the corpse to find the vultures. That's exactly what he said. So I don't think he's going to be like, hey, look at me, or I don't think it's going to be like a hey, look at me moment. You're going to have to go seek him like you have to seek him in everyday life when he does show up. Because, it doesn't also say that, he'll land on the Mount of Olives and everybody will see him. But is that when he comes across for like the Armageddon? You know what I mean?
The book of Revelation is not clear whether we're talking about, because Armageddon is not, that's right before the 1,000, or is it, a lot of people say Armageddon is after the 1,000 years when it's the final battle.
Yeah.
Some people say that it's,
And then, is Jesus' return going to be, obviously there's only one second coming. So if he says, to remember this, people will say that it's me, but just to find the corpse for all the vultures.
Right.
And then he says that every eyes will see him and, he's going to come back but one time. Which is it? Like, is he telling us to be weary the first time because it's not yet the time of my actual return?
Well, when you think about the rapture theory or the rapture theology, my uncle was a part of seminary back in the the mid 50s into the 60s, and he told me right years before he died that the rapture theory was brought to them. It wasn't something they learned in seminary. It was something that was brought
to operation.
Yeah, it was brought to them, and it had to do with Darby and Schofield. And I personally believe that the rapture theory was introduced into the churches not only to create lukewarm Christians, because you start talking about end times with a person who believes in the rapture, and they're like, oh, I don't need to know this, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, perfect psychology.
Yeah. But also when this event happens, they're going to believe that this is it, this is the rapture.
And I personally know someone who was part of the FEMA clergy response team.
Yep, I've actually done shows on that, talking about that. If you guys don't know about the FEMA clergy response team, these guys are the ones that are put in these churches, trained by FEMA to tell you guys it's okay. Go with these. Go.
Go with the rapture. Go with the rapture thought.
Go with the rapture. Yeah.
And tell them that God needed them more than they did on the earth. Just this whole playbook. And the person that I knew that was actually a pastor, and he looked at me like, I was growing a tail out of my head when I told him.
They usually do.
Yeah, and I said, "What about this FEMA emergency response team?" And he just kind of looked at me, and he was buying some hay from somebody that I knew. You know, we know this guy, and then he was buying a bale of hay, and he was like, "Well, yeah, yeah," and he gave me his documents from, and I don't have those anymore. By the way, whoever's listening, I don't have those. But anyhow, he gave me the documents, and it shows like the playbook. And he actually quit that church, and they were like, "Oh, well, he's going to go, pastor somewhere." No, he bugged out, and has been bugged out since then, because that man's face that day when we were talking about that, almost like he thought I was an undercover agent, like and I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty weird, man," and of course by that point I was like, well, I've done, dealt with these dreams and shapeshifters and different weird things. So it's like, this isn't odd to me that, FEMA's up to something involving the church. But yeah, it's an easy psychological operation to, have the churches ready. So when this deception or rapture or whatever they come up with, they have these people like, holding your hand and, promising you heaven, then as they put you on a train car with shackles in it, because you're going to go to one of these, FEMA camps.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it was about FEMA camps, and they were going to use a particular verse in the Bible, and I'm not sure which one it was, but it was about trusting the government or go with the government.
Hebrews. It was in Hebrews.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. That was the verse that they were going to use to justify.
Was it that, or was it Romans? Was it? I thought government was in Romans.
Maybe it was Romans.
Yeah, Romans. No, I think it was Romans. Yeah, trust the government.
Let me pull up. I'll pull up.
The point of everything is this: with all this stuff here, I mean, there's so much stuff that can cause confusion, especially during the final days, especially with these different doctrines that's coming into play with the ascended masters and whatnot. I mean, the best thing that anybody can do is 100% follow scripture. I mean, that's the only way to go, because the AC is going to come on the scene to get rid of the existing new world order, to bring about his new world order. He's going to use this type of stuff to be able to expose everyone, to be able to garner their trust and faith in him, like he is their savior, he is the Messiah. Come to him, accept my mark, declare your allegiance to him. Now, when you do that, you have to understand, by doing so, I forfeited your name in the Lamb's Book of Life, and that's going to be yielding your eternal damnation. So we have to be aware about all that. So all this stuff that we are discussing here, it all leads into the Antichrist's reign on this earth.
Absolutely, it does. I'm going to pull up this. I don't know if you guys can see it. This is harpazo in the Hebrew Strong Concordance. This coincides with the rapture. And harpazo, it means to seize, to snatch, to obtain by robbery. And it says, properly seized by force, snatch up suddenly and decisively, like someone seizing bounty. Take it by open display of force. This is not what the rapture was supposed to be. This is more like the shaking and the violence of the separation from the wheat and the tares. It has nothing to do with this secret return of Christ. In the book of Matthew 24, he tells us things that we're supposed to look for. He doesn't say anything. Something so important in the rapture, you think he would say something, but instead he tells us, if somebody says, I come in secret, believe them not. Because he doesn't return another time. He doesn't return 1.5 times. He only returns one more time.
Yeah,
such a dangerous theology it is, because it creates lukewarm Christians.
Yeah, I was going to say that when I had the only time I ever looked into the rapture is, it says that there's but one second coming, which I think that's in Peter. But, it's like, it wouldn't make any sense if he comes across and we were all caught up with him in the air. Well, he showed up because he says he, descended or whatever. So
Right.
why would he come down to get everybody and then he comes back again? Well, that's 2 second comings technically.
Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And so the only place the word rapture even appears, the only Bible it appears in is the Schofield Bible. And if you're reading that, you need to stop. Don't read that Bible. Schofield and Darby, look them up. Not very good men. Yes, Trish. Oh, bet you're going to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you guys your personal opinions. Do you think that has the tribulation started, and if so, is Jesus coming mid-trib? What's your opinion?
Well, the Bible said those that endure to the end will be saved. So mid-trib is theoretically not the end. So we're going to, as Christians, we're going to suffer just as Jesus Christ has suffered till the end.
We're only going to suffer tribulation, though. We're not going to suffer wrath. There's a difference between
Right.
wrath and tribulation.
Exactly.
How long did Jesus preach for, right? 42 months?
Yes.
Was his sermon?
The same length as the tribulation, right?
Yeah, Antichrist gets the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is the same amount of time that Nimrod had.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like
3.5 years.
Yeah, he has that, and then like people say the 7-year tribulation. I don't think it's 7 years. I think it's exactly the amount of time that Jesus got, that the Antichrist gets, because Antichrist technically would get way more than Jesus ever did, which it's got to be an opposite.
Well, Big John, the tribulation, the total tribulation is going to last 7 years, but Antichrist reign on earth as the king of the world will only be for 3.5 years.
Yeah, because he doesn't come on scene, guns blazing. He has to come on
Right.
and he has to love bomb us first.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I think was like. I know, Ernie, you're right about the 7 years. Like I said, I didn't really dive into it. I remember just the only thing I ever remember was, I don't know what that person was saying. It was like for a full 7 years is the whole chaos thing. But, but yeah, you're right. He gets that. But then the total of it is that. And
yeah, because once he sits on the temple of God, declaring himself that he is God, that's when
it's
his wrath will pour out and everything will break loose.
Yeah,
right? There's going to be chaos beforehand because we're going to be asking for a savior. That's when he's going to be
kind of like
the world.
Devil's
that's
wrath.
When he's going to come and love bomb us and protect us, and that's when there's going to be peace, and everything's going to be hunky dory for everybody because he just came and saved the world. So.
But here's the thing too. Here's the thing too. When he comes in that type of peace and love bombing us, even the Christians will feel the love.
Gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Look at how they fell for the orange man. He's coming to save us.
Oh, they still believe that stuff.
So when I get into that, but yeah, I mean, but tribulation. So tribulations is into two parts. It's in tribulation where, but then the wrath of God. Christ returns at the final trumpet, and the dead in Christ rise first to meet him in the sky, and then those who still have flesh will also meet with him. That will be the time that we are taken out of here, and that's when God's wrath. When the Bible says about, but we're going to be taken to a safe place. Yes, before the wrath, but we're all going to go through tribulation.
100%. Yeah, the devil's wrath.
None of us.
And don't forget that once Satan and devil is cast down, we're all coming back to be with Jesus for 1,000 years, and that's when the second death will occur.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because there'll be 1,000 years where there is no sin, basically. But I've heard like different things, like people at that time, some will have the transcendent body, some will have who survived it. When you make your pilgrimage to the New Jerusalem, it'll be like either you can go there, like transcend there, or you got to do the old-fashioned way to get there.
Wow.
Different theories on that.
Well, I just feel like we're, in my personal opinion, it seems like we're almost halfway, and it's about to get really heated.
If you follow Marcus Kaiser, he says we just started the 7 years. I don't know. It's hard to tell because I mean, so much has to take place before. I mean, how bad is it going to get? I mean, I think it's going to be worse than we've ever experienced, and I don't think we're there yet.
Well, the animals are going in circles. That's a sign something big is coming real soon.
I have a question that nobody seems to be talking about, and this is something that I have on my notebook to dig into. But nobody, I mean, everybody talks about the rapture, everybody talks about tribulation, everybody talks about all of this, the mark of the beast. Nobody talks about the two witnesses.
Yeah.
Me and Elijah and Enoch.
Elijah and Enoch.
Yeah, they talk about, that's funny you said that because I could have sworn there was like talk from Egypt, and they were saying there were two people in Egypt right now that are like wearing sackcloth and doing things right now, and I can't find anything on it, but it's said that they're there in Egypt, like when they did that Comp 20 or whatever, and they crowned that person. Somebody was crowned, and then they said that there are two people that are preaching and performing these things, these miracles, but I can't find only found one thing on it.
The thing is, when they appear, everybody will know. Everybody.
Yeah, I do believe that.
It's like our final chance to etch our names in the Lamb's Book of Life before the great deception occurs.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that now too. I can't find anything on that.
So it says basically when they show up, when they show up the very first time, everybody will know it, or do you think that they'll be kind of like around and then pop on the scene because they're noticed?
Well, they're going to, from what I've read in the book of Revelation, they're going to show their face on earth and you will see it everywhere. Now, the son of perdition will execute them and the whole world will witness that as well.
Isn't that supposed to be at the wall of Jerusalem? Isn't that where they're supposed to be?
The Wailing Wall?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, this stuff is going to be broadcasted.
Right. It's going to be broadcast. Everybody's going to be knowing them. They're going to see them being killed. Their bodies are going to be laying there for 3 days. People are going to mock them, ridicule them, spit on them, whatever. And then, we know what happens after that.
No, what happens is they're going to be taken back up.
Yep. Yeah.
So like you said, they come down one last time to kind of show that, yeah, there is a God.
Right.
Right. And that's, if you want to know that in the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 3, it says, and I will grant authority to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth.
Yeah.
So once they appear, we know we're in. So
but now you got to think. Okay, the elite know this. They know this. Are they going to send two people down there as a distraction? I mean, I don't put it past them.
Yeah, you had so many, just like the magicians in Egypt, with the snakes and all that, and then some of the Baal prophets that Elijah battled. They have, demonic, they have the magician stuff. Like they can do little signs and wonders.
Well, that's what this guy in Israel is doing right now. That's claiming to be the Messiah.
Yehuda, Ben David.
Oh
guy.
yeah.
Ben Hoot, whatever his name is. Yeah, he's doing these little signs and wonders as well. So everything that God is planning, they are literally hijacking.
Yeah, but what they fail to realize is how many times they try to execute their plan and God won't allow them. He will only allow their plan to take place on his timing. So we see many antichrists that occurred in the past, but not the antichrist. Even though they thought that this is it. This is going to be the savior. God says, no, that's not him.
Right.
So there's no
Well,
way
I mean,
for
of
us to
course.
really find out until we physically see these witnesses and see these major events that occur before the AC
Yeah, you don't
comes
see
on this earth.
Christians flocking to this person who's claiming the Messiah and worshiping right now. You know, we're
Right.
all like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
But there's going to come a time that somebody's going to come on scene that's going to change.
Yep. But we got these lukewarm Christians who believes that he's the AC because he's doing all these signs and wonders, where they're getting deceived themselves.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's very true. All right, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. I don't know, this goes so fast. I can't even believe it. But yeah, this is going to take us into next week. We're going to dive into the Antarctic part of it, the Nazis, the occult, the Nazis. We're going to get into what's her name? I forgot her name again.
Maria,
yeah. We're going to get into her. We're going to get into the Vril. It's going to be like pretty wild next week because we're going to have a lot to talk about. You know, the fact that why are the elite, why are the presidents and the leaders of the world being summoned to Antarctic on several occasions? What is down there? That, I mean, if we're to believe the newspapers, if we're to believe the official story, all that's down there is expedition, you know, scientists and ice, and that's it. But you know, if they're being summoned down there, why are they're not talking to the scientists? Scientists, they can. Why don't scientists go to Washington? Why does Washington got to go to the scientists? So that's what we're going to talk about next week.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, this next topic is pretty wild. It's you know, and I think it's probably going to carry on to the next. Well, I don't know what Christmas is, but to the next show after that. So, final thoughts on you guys. If we John, you want to pop in something that you've come to mind that we haven't talked about that you want to put in here, or floor's all yours.
I think going back to the Iraqi situation, it was, you know, every time they have an event, right, no matter what it is, it's always like an 8-front war, whether it's for, you know, to capture technology that's ancient, whether it was to liberate these people that are suppressed, because he really was a bad person. And you know, you could ask a lot of people that were there or whatever, it'd be once the statue fell of him and he was, you know, either exiled. Of course, he went back to Tikrit to hide, but that's when all the trouble started, when we wouldn't leave. It was like, no, y'all did y'all's job. Y'all got him out of, you know, he's out. So let's start new again. And then, of course, it was the, you know, oh no, we're here for this and this and this. And I was going to say that the families of the Illuminati, which, and 3 of them were there, and people are going to connect this once I say this, that a 3-letter agency that's not who you think it is Kellogg, Brown, and Root. And those were all Illuminati families. And they were also the high-ranking members of the Skull and Bones families. And that's Halliburton. So it was known why they went, because Halliburton ran this entire thing. And you can divulge who was the Skull and Bones, obviously, of the Bushes, and that's some of their real names. But, and I know Lori knows that. And so they had different things going on all at one time, just like, and I don't like talking about this event, but the event in Las Vegas was like 8 different things going on at one time.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how all major, okay, let's say that's how all Luciferian agendas are. You know, it's like it has a cover story. It has, you know, what you call an operational cover. It has what you really want to do. It has, well, we'll throw that in because we don't like that guy. You know what I mean? It's like it's 8 different things at all times. So whether or not you're a fan of, you know, those campaigns, or even Afghanistan, which was obviously opium and, you know, engaging Nephilim and this and that. But the Iraq War was just had so much stuff going on, and whether, you know, you were there, had a opinion on it, it had some good and it had a lot bad.
Right. Speaking of Halliburton, I mean, why do they need their own private military? Halliburton they employ Blackwater, which is now Academy, which is, I mean, it's basically their own military.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. That's all. You know, it's funny because I know, like in the old movie, you know, people don't like Michael Moore. I don't really care for the guy, but he did Fahrenheit 9/11. He exposed a lot of those groups that were associated, and those are the guys that make up a lot of, you know, these
Carlisle group.
Yeah, Carlisle, exactly. Like a lot of these private mercenaries, which they call, like, you know, risk assessment, which they're just a bunch of, you know, mercenaries and shit. Oh, excuse me, the language. And
ones for hire. Soldiers
but
for hire.
Yeah, and it's that's, you know, this Blackwater got in trouble, and that might have been like a patsy move, and you can it just, there's so much stuff, and, you know, I don't want to get into the Chris Kyle thing, but, you know, he had his, you know, he had his company at the Boston bombing, which was weird, you know. It's like, but I believe that was the first time they tried to get Chris Kyle set up, because I'm not going to say he was a bad guy, but he probably obviously knew more than he needed to know, and they went after him. But, you know, they finally got him, obviously. But I think that the whole Boston bombing thing, where he was, they used his, whether it was them or not, but they used his Cigna and his company or whatever, and with the Punisher logo. But I think that was a false flag operation that he might have refused or got wind of, and then of course they used the old, you know, lone assassin kind of deal.
Pulse nightclub as well was part of that whole operation.
Exactly, yeah, and that's, we can get to that. And like, I don't know if I said this before, but I think I know that there was a female suicide bomber part of that assault on that nightclub.
Yeah, that had to do with Crisis Cast and the GS4 security team.
Yeah, and Omar Mateen worked for them. I mean, it's like,
yeah, Omar Mateen did. Yes, he did.
He did. His father was an FBI informant. I mean, it's just, it's like, come on now, why are all these feds involved in that? It's like, don't pay attention to that, you know.
Yeah, don't listen. I think I might do another show on just Crisis Cast in itself, because they got taken down with their last channel. But you know what's interesting with Halliburton is we used to drive by it all the time when we were in Houston, and I'm sorry, but there's armed guards guarding Halliburton. Like snipers on the roof, like security checkpoints to get in, completely guarded by fence and every.
Well, I'll add in two things, and then, you know, you can go to y'all or whatever. But Judge Joe Brown brought this out about how there was a certain guy named Sotero in Indonesia, which ran the Halliburton death squads, you know, the hit cartels basically, and Indonesia. And his last name was Sotero, so I'm sure y'all can figure that out. But he was best friends with the Bushes. Wait
a minute. You're talking about Sotero, like the guy that's supposedly the father of Obama.
Yes.
Subarco Sotero.
Yes, he was a part of Halliburton's team in Indonesia, because there's lots of oil exploration over there. But he was in charge of the private Halliburton death squads that took out political dissidents in Indonesia, and he was best friends with the Bushes. That, you know, he's part of the Carlisle and Halliburton, and they're all connected. Every bit of it. Yeah, that's Uncle.
Every one of them.
Yeah, that's why.
You guys go look up a picture. Put in Barry Sotara Sobarka and father, and then it'll pull up. He was a Philippine gang leader, and he looks just like Obama.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he ran the death squads over there with Halliburton.
Wow, I didn't know about his connection with Halliburton. I knew about him.
Yeah, because they were best friends of the Bushes. That's why
Wow.
George Bush knew Barack Obama when he was young. Used to give him he'd give him a lollipop when he was like 8 years old or whatever, favorite candy, whatever he talked about.
Bet he gave him a lollipop. Never mind.
But I had said this, and Lori, I don't remember if you were on after the show, but okay, so I'm not a believer in this. I did it for fun, but there's an app called Ghost Tube.
Oh, look it. Okay, I downloaded it on my phone. It freaked me out so bad.
Did I tell you, or was I just told Trish and Ernie about when I passed a very large building that is the headquarters? The course headquarters of Halliburton is in Oklahoma City, but one of the larger ones is close to where I'm at. And well, yeah, but there's go further west. There's one out here where I may or may not be at, but when I passed that place, I had that app on, and I'm telling you what it said when I passed in front of that place, which is probably, the place is pretty good size, but driving 75 miles an hour, you might pass it for about 4 seconds, I guess. And it said, "Portal, do not talk."
Yeah, I downloaded it. I was laying in bed. Guys, I'm here alone a lot. Okay, my husband travels a lot, and I already sleep with the TV on and the bathroom light on. So it freaked me out. It's still on my phone, but I haven't opened it up. Let me just play you guys, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But there was an interview by Roger Stone, and you said, John, this took place a while ago. It's just coming out kind of like a new thing, but it's been around for a while.
Yes.
And I'm going to play it real quick.
A lot of people that go, I don't know, that sounds weird to me. You were talking about something extraordinary, and I just love you to touch on that subject, because it's at least very interesting.
I think that there has that a portal, a demonic portal, opened above the White House around the time that the Bidens moved in. This was brought to my attention by a Christian who lives in North Florida, who sent me a bunch of photographs and a bunch of documents, and also some notations in the Bible about portals. And I was like, okay, sure. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you should start out by being skeptical.
I was
saying
skeptical.
That sounds insane to me.
That's exactly what I did.
But please continue.
So I was skeptical about it. But I looked at the photos, and you can also, there's a live cam where you can actually see in real time, and there does appear to be something, above the White House.
Something inexplicable.
Well, at first you say, well, maybe it's a reflection. Maybe it's an aerostat balloon. Maybe there's a logical. So I called a police officer I know, who's a friend of mine, and I said, look, do me a favor, would you get on and check this out? He said, are you out of your mind? I said, no, just humor me. Go down there and check it out and call me back and tell me what you see.
Right.
And take photos. Then he called me back about 2.5 hours later, and he said, you're not going to believe this, but there's definitely something there. And it's there. He said, other people were there photographing it. One man called me and said, you can see it day or night. It's like a smudge in the sky, almost like a cloud that doesn't move. But when you zoom in on it with a telephonic lens, it's swirling like a cauldron.
Now, wait a minute. So this is like, 8 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a cop.
Yes.
Telling you that he doesn't know what the heck it is, but
it's something.
But yeah, there's something there.
Correct. And
has this persisted?
Yes, it's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Okay, that's nuts. Like, how has the media not covered this?
Well, the media doesn't cover a lot of things.
Okay. So that was Roger Stone. I do not follow Roger Stone, but this popped up on my FYP, and I looked at it, and I was skeptical. Of course, I'm going to be skeptical. And what does Lori do? Well, Lori went to the live cam, and I pulled it up. And sure enough, right above, and I'm not talking about the white part, but The white, I think, is that the white is like from the camera, but the one, it's right here. If you look right above the White House, there's 2 red circles. Now, if you can see that, yeah, there it is.
You know, I was going to add in too that Glenn Beck talked about a dream he had twice 10 years apart. It's very interesting.
Glenn Beck did?
Yeah, Glenn Beck. I don't know when he said it, but he was on the show. He had the exact same dream 10 years apart, and he explains it, and then he tells you what he dreamed about, and it's like very close to this. Like you're going to be kind of, oh, that's kind of weird.
Oh, wow. I'll have to find that.
Lori, I sent you the one with the arrow.
Did you? I'm not getting it.
Sent it to your Facebook.
I know my computer is so slow right now. I don't know what's going on with it.
Well, we know what's going on with it.
Yeah, I know. I was fine with me watching freaking Netflix all day. And I did a scan before he came on, and I cleaned out everything. So I don't know. Hold on a minute. Actually, you know what? I don't need it because you can see it. It's perfectly clear on the screen. You can see where I'm pointing to. And it's not this one. That's from the camera. That's a camera thing. It's this one right here. Here's the White House right here, straight above the White House. And it was there last night. I took a screenshot of it. I drew an arrow for everybody to see it in chat. And so you can only see it during the nighttime. I think I don't know if you can see it during the day. I haven't checked during the day. Vegan says Planet X system bodies. You know what? Here's the thing about Planet X. If it's even real, okay, if it's that close to us, let's say the gravitational force, the gravitational pull of it being that close to us would be tearing the planet apart at this point. So, and another thing is if you research Nibiru and you research Nibiru's orbit, you'll notice that when it comes into our solar system, it drops down, and the only place you can see it would be from south, like Antarctica, okay, because that's where it does. It comes up from underneath the Earth, and then it comes up and over. So by the time it gets up and over, you would see it far more than this in the sky. Another thing about Nibiru is that it is a dwarf star, which means you can only see it through infrared. So it would not be showing up on the naked eye. Those are a few things about Nibiru. So, all right, guys. Things that make you go, So, all right. Any final thoughts, Ernie, Trish?
Only thing I can say is, there's going to be a lot of things out there that's going to confuse you. It's going to make you question your faith and question your reality on this earth.
Absolutely.
Stick to the Bible. Stick to the Most High God. Follow His doctrine. Don't follow the doctrines of men, because it's going to lead you to nothing but destruction.
Amen.
So, I mean, we have to keep our armor on, use discernment now more than ever, and get your foundation set on the rock. And the rock I'm talking about is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen to that. Exactly. Because at this point, we're warned that even if elect can be deceived, they will be. Don't be the one of the people that has been deceived. Test all things. Study to show yourself approved. The Bible tells us those things, and we tell you that all the time. I'm going to put all the links that we've used tonight in the description area below. There's quite a few of them, so give me a little bit of time before they're going to be available for you guys. And next week we're going to delve into Antarctica again, the Vril, the Hitler, all of that occult. And I think that's going to take us a couple of weeks to do. So thank you, John.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Trish.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Ernie.
Yes.
We will be back I don't know what's Wednesday. We'll be back. I'm alone. I'm left unsupervised for the next few days. So we might come back on tomorrow night if you want to.
After Bible study should be fine.
Okay, we'll do something tomorrow night then. Even if it's an open panel to have you guys, guys want to pop up and just talk about things. I'll put the link, and you guys can come up on the panel and discuss some things with us if you'd like. So, all right, I want to thank everybody in our chat room. I want to thank all of the moderators for being there for us. And as always, remember, we're not telling you these things for fear. We're telling you these things so that you can be properly informed, that you can do what you can to protect yourself and your family. Always be prepared. Always look to the Bible for your answers. And as always, eyes open, no fear. See you next week, guys.